Ladies and gentlemen, and sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Tech Chicago, one of the couple 2 or 3 best podcasts around. So grab yourself a nice cold one and a bowl of sausage, park your keister in your French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host Sean, and this is going to be your Chicago Bulls, Chicago Blackhawks Circus Road Trip edition. And for all those of you that don't know, like Joakim Noah, the circus trip is not called for anything other than the fact that the circus is in town and it's going to be at the United Center. So it is off limits to the Bulls and the Blackhawks. So they either need to not play for those 2 weeks, or what the schedulers do in their great wisdom is decide to send them both to far off places like the West Coast so they can play a 2-week road trip. So let's start with the Chicago Bulls because they're first place, 8-3, first place in the division, second place in the conference to Toronto, who the Bulls have already beaten this season, and 2.5 games ahead of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who everyone sort of anointed as once they got Kevin Love and LeBron James as the favorite to win the conference and go to the NBA Finals and compete against the teams from the West. So first things first with the Bulls is let's talk about Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is the face of the franchise. He's the highest paid player. He's also a complete injury-prone guy and an absolute mess in front of a camera or a microphone. I don't even know what else to say about the guy. It's media gaffe after media gaffe, and the most recent one is he's speaking to a group of Chicago people. Well, he's speaking to a group of reporters, but the audience is Chicago sports fans who are blue-collar type people, and he's saying that, and this guy is saying who's worth $1 bajillion, he's got to be worth $200 million, saying he's not gonna bust his butt and play as hard as he can because he doesn't want to be at his son's graduation and feel sore. Are you meaning to tell me that you're going to talk to a guy who's a union steelworker and say, well, I don't want to do this because when I'm 50 years old, I don't want to be sore? You play. You don't work. You play. Your job is called playing. You play a sport for a living. That's so infuriating and so insulting to the fans that pay your salary, especially when you've got a two-year layoff where you haven't done anything to earn your money. So what Derrick Rose really needs is a media manager, or somebody that goes in there and just stands with him and stops him from saying stupid things. And he needs to get better representation. His advisors are B.J. Armstrong and his brother Reggie Rose, who are just complete dolts. And I don't know what else to say about it. Is you've got these two that are just kind of speaking to him, and then you get him who is just a mess in front of a microphone, and all you get out of that is complete dipshittery. It's the best way to describe it. And he's a very good basketball player when he's healthy, but the problem is he's not healthy. He's had knee injury in each knee over the past 2 years, and this year he's already sprained both ankles and tweaked a hamstring. So already starting off the circus trip with him not being able to play at least the first game. And then you've also got Paul Gasol, who's he's an older guy, 34 years old, and he's also a big guy. So big and old in the NBA means you're going to break down sooner rather than later. So Thibodeau is actually being smart and giving him rest and allowing him time to recuperate between hard games so you can get the best out of him. You don't want to... The Eastern Conference is just wide open, and the Bulls could be the best team in the conference. You don't have a juggernaut that everybody's gunning for like the Miami Heat of the last couple years. This is a really wide open race, and anybody could wind up in the NBA Finals from the East. So if you're the Bulls and you know you could be that team, you don't want to burn somebody out or overuse them or injure them seriously so they either have nothing in the tank or they're injured come the time you really need them late in the playoffs. So it's really smart that, A, he's using Gasol and working him well and then also giving him rest. But he's also being really smart in he's utilizing a deep bench. He's using rookies like McDermott. He's using guys like Mirotic, and he's giving them playing time, and he's working guys in. You also have the emergence of Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler, he has been playing phenomenally. You look at his career numbers versus what he's doing this year, and it's absolutely insane. So far, he's shooting over 50% from the floor, over 80% from the line, 37% from three-point arc, over 21 points a game. He's shooting 8 free throws a game. And all of this on top of this is he's the best defender on the team. And this is a team that doesn't have a lot of individual defenders, but you've got your best one, and he is up for a new contract. Now, the issue that a lot of people have worried about with Jimmy Butler is what happens if, now that they didn't re-sign him to an extension, he's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And I've heard several people ask, are we going to wind up with another situation where a team's going to use a poison pill to get Jimmy Butler away, kind of like the Houston Rockets did with Omer Asik to the Bulls? Now, if you don't know what a poison pill is, basically, Team A has a player, and it's a restricted free agent player. Team B wants that player. So, under the collective bargaining agreement, if Team B, the team that the player's not on, so let's just give them names instead of calling A and B. So let's do with Omer Asik. So the Bulls had Omer Asik. He became a restricted free agent, and the Houston Rockets wanted him. Under the collective bargaining agreement, the contract that they offer Omer Asik, the Bulls have a certain window of time to be able to match whatever contract they offer they have to keep him. But to allow teams to get players away and open up the door for restricted free agency is that the Houston Rockets have a lot of wiggle room as far as how they can structure that contract. So the way they did it with Asik is they backloaded the contract. So, like, what was it? The first year was $5 million, the second year was $5 million, and the third year was like $15 million. And so the Bulls, but the Rockets are allowed to average the contract. So for them, it's counting on their salary as the same amount every year. But if the Bulls were to match, it would not be the same average amount per year. It would be the way that the years broke down. So $5 million, $5 million, $15 million. Why that became a problem is because the Rockets knew what the Bulls' salary cap situation was, and they couldn't afford to keep Asik for that third year. They could pay for him the first 2. They could pay for him for the average amount over the time. But that last year, they really hammered it and forced a situation that the Bulls wouldn't be able to cover for Omer Asik, and they were able to sign him away. And the Bulls, even though financially they had the money to pay the whole contract and afford it, the way it broke down, they weren't able to do it. So people have been worried that somebody's going to do that with Jimmy Butler and offer some sort of poison pill where the Bulls aren't able to match it. But if you actually look at the collective bargaining agreement, the Bulls have the Larry Bird rights for Jimmy Butler. So if a team is to offer him a contract and do some sort of poison pill, the Bulls have the right to A, go over the salary cap to pay for him and give him the highest max contract that they wanted to. And they also have the right to match the contract that anybody offers and have it be the average salary because they have the bird rights to him. So it doesn't fall under that regular poison pill that Omer Asik got with. So So I don't really see Jimmy Buckets going anywhere after this year, but it is weird that they didn't bother to re-sign him when they had the opportunity to sign an extension, because he's going to be much more expensive now, especially considering the pace that he's been on. He's been a real offensive threat and a real, consistent defensive player. So moving on from Jimmy Butler is, as I said, the Bulls are 8-3, playing really well, but I still don't think they've played their best basketball yet. This is a team that has a lot of high-powered offense, and it's a shift for the Bulls, because before they were a team that struggled on offense except for Derrick Rose, and when Derrick was injured, you didn't know where you were going to get points from every night. But you always knew that they were going to hustle, play hard, and play great defense. This team, they don't have a lot of great defenders. They have a lot of flat-footed guys that do okay in team defense, but aren't anything phenomenal. But they're able to put a lot of points on the board, especially behind the three-point line. Is you've got Paul Gasol who can shoot a three, Nikolai Mirotic, you've got Jimmy Butler, you've got Mike Dunleavy, you've got Doug McDermott. You've got a lot of guys that can shoot threes, and they can shoot threes well. This is a very high-scoring, potent offense, but they still are not playing that well. Part of the problem is they're not getting in and getting the rebounds, which is really frustrating, because you've got a 7-footer in Gasol, 7-footer in Taj, 7-footer in Noah. You've got a lot of big, tall guys. You're not getting in there to get rebounds. So other teams are getting second, third, fourth opportunities to put the points in there, and you keep giving an NBA team that many shots to put points on the board, they're going to take advantage of it. The other thing is just not playing as hard as possible, which has got to be infuriating to Thibodeau, because that's the crux of what he is a hustle coach. So look for the Bulls eventually just to start being able to mesh things together. Once you sort of get over the injury bugs and get everybody on the same page, I look for this team to go on a pretty big roll. Even though they're starting on this circus trip, if you look at the schedule, the next 6 games are not anything to be nervous about at all. You've got the next game is against the Sacramento Kings. That's nothing special. They're 6-5. It's a very winnable game. You got a tough one against the Portland Trailblazers, but then you've got the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Celtics, the Nets. You should be able to roll and be 5-1 at worst, 4-2 in that stretch, and that's a great road stretch. And then it's not until you play Dallas again that you have another tough game. So the Bulls really have a favorable schedule right now, and they're playing really well. I mean, as far as winning games, but they haven't played their best basketball yet. This is even coming off of just a thrashing of the LA Clippers, who many expected to be a competitor in the West, and they went and played them and just thrashed them. So this is a team that's winning ball games, still not hitting their stride yet. I look for them to start rattling off some consecutive wins here, and I think 60 wins is a real possibility for this team. So let's move on to our other circus road trip team, the Chicago Blackhawks. So the Blackhawks, while the Bulls are in first place, the Blackhawks in their division are in fourth place. They're kind of entrenched behind the Nashville Predators, the St. Louis Blues, and the Winnipeg Jets. And if you look at it in the conference, which is where it really matters, is they sit number 9, which is probably the worst spot you can be, because if the playoffs were to start today, they would be on the outside looking in. They'd be watching the games at home, or they'd be playing golf. If you guys remember the year after they won the 2010 Cup, so the 2011 season, the Blackhawks really struggled to make the playoffs, and they had to really push at the end of the season in order to get in. They got that last spot, and they just really had nothing left in the tank in order to play in the playoffs, where you have to ratchet up the intensity. So they ended up losing in 7 games in that first series, which is a series that they probably should have won. That's what happens when you have to put so much effort into making the playoffs, when really you should be able to play hard in the beginning and the middle of the season and kind of coast a little bit at the end and rest up your guys. But instead you have the team really pushing and pushing to try to even make the playoffs. I'm worried that's the kind of route that the Hawks are going on now, because they're just they're not winning consecutively, and they're losing games that they should be winning, and they're just not getting the production out of the guys that you would expect. So the Hawks really need to push, especially going into this long, tough road stretches. Is they've got to start winning some games consecutively and get a little space in between them and move up. You don't necessarily need to have the best record in hockey to move on, but you need to be at least in the middle of the pack, so when playoffs come, you're not scrambling and not trying to at least secure a spot. You're just kind of resting guys and just trying not to lose, so you can conserve some energy for the playoff. One issue that's really facing the Blackhawks right dead in the eyes going into this circus trip is the injury bug. You've already had Corey Crawford on the injured reserve. Now you've got Patrick Sharp, who is listed as day-to-day, but I see another couple weeks before you see him on the ice. And the latest one is Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who fractured his patella blocking a shot. So basically he broke his kneecap. They're saying 3 to 4 months, but I see it's probably more than 4. That's a really tough injury to come back from, not just physically but also mentally. And Trevor Van Riemsdyk has actually played pretty well. I didn't know what to expect from him, and he had his ups and downs at the beginning of the season, but he's really starting to hit his stride, and he's playing with confidence, and he's been surprising because Coach Q is not always for playing rookies, especially in big blocks of time and in pressure situations, and he's really had Van Riemsdyk out there and playing with that third pairing, and he's played every single game up until his injury. So he's a guy that Coach Q's really trusted, and he's given him a lot of faith to play and work in some of those tough spots. And you wonder how he's going to replace him. So what it's looking like is that Adam Clendening is going to be brought up from Rockford. Well, he's already been brought up from Rockford. He's going to be the guy that's replacing is replacing TVR. And I was really worried that we were, for the next couple of weeks, going to see the third line pairing the third defensive pairing of Michael Rosefall and David Rundblad, and it's not something I wanted to see. But instead, they're gonna bring up Adam Clendening from Rockford, who's a very offensive-oriented defenseman, whereas a guy who I really like, Klaus Dahlbeck, and if you go back and you can hear the interview I did with him on this show from a couple weeks ago. But I really like Klaus Dahlbeck, and I thought he's a much better defensive player, but he's not as good on the offensive end as a defensive player or as a defenseman. So Adam Clendening is going to be coming in and to play on that third defensive pairing. He's also going to be the second point he's going to be the point on the second line power play. So they're really looking for him to come in and bring some offensive production as a defenseman. So what do we have as far as going into this this road trip? They've also, to replace Patrick Sharp, they brought up Joakim Nordstrom, who's a young player that they had on the roster last year, and he got some sparing amount of play. But he's been brought up because he was named captain for Rockford and playing very well. But Joakim Nordstrom, he's going to be joined by Ben Smith and Marcus Kruger on the fourth line. You're going to have Dan Carcillo moved up with Brian Bickle and Andrew Shaw on the third line. And if you watch Carcillo practice today, he practiced, but he looked like he was in pain. So we're going to have to watch and see what we see from him. Before his injury, he was playing surprisingly well for the Blackhawks. He provided some energy on that bottom lines, and he was get some physical play without a lot of his trademark boneheaded penalties. So he's actually playing pretty well. I'm interested to see how he's going to respond to that injury and how he's going to play. Then you're going to have Brandon Saad rejoin with John Taves and Marion Hossa on the top line. And that second line is going to be Brad Richards at center with Patrick Kane and Christopher Stieg as his wings. So it's looking like Jeremy Morin's going to be the guy that's odd man out. So it's interesting that they brought up Joakim Nordstrom. After Sharp got hurt, the first guy they brought up was Peter Regan. They talked about bringing up Teuvo Teravainen, but he had some sort of illness, and that really hamstrung him a little bit. And if you listen to quotes from General Manager Stan Bowman, he was singing the praises of Teuvo and talking about how much that they were happy with his progress and where he's going and what he's done so far in the young season. And he even said that it was the illness that cost him the opportunity to come up. But now they've settled on Joakim Nordstrom, and it's likely going to be him going forward, at least through this trip. The luxury the Blackhawks have is their AHL affiliate, which is like their minor league, is only 90 minutes away from the city in Rockford. And let's take a quick second, because Rockford is the sponsor for this show. So I want to give a shout out to the Rockford Ice Hogs. Located just 90 minutes from the city, you get to see some of the next stars for the Chicago Blackhawks with tickets starting at just $8. The next home game is going to be Friday, November 21st versus the Iowa Wild. Game begins at 7 p.m. The Ice Hogs' second meeting with the Wild kicks off with another Blue Flame Lounge pregame at the BMO Harris Bank Center. All ticketed fans 21 and up can arrive early to enjoy free appetizers, live music, and drink specials before enjoying the game. Doors open at 5:15. So check it out at icehogs.com. So as I was saying, is one of the luxuries that the Blackhawks have is just 90 minutes away. They have their AHL affiliate, the Rockford Ice Hogs. So you can juggle bringing up guys, bringing down guys very quickly and easily. But going on this 2-week circus trip, they have to settle on who they're going to bring and be much more deliberate on that. So they really have to decide that Clendening and Joakim Nordstrom are the two guys, and that Antti Ranta is going to be your backup goalie because they brought up Darling one game, then put Ranta down, let Ranta play, and moved him back up. I'm wondering if that was just to kind of, they didn't want to put Ranta in a game in the NHL, but they wanted to give him some work. Guessing that's what it is. But they have to be much more deliberate of how they do things. They're not going to have to be allowed to be willy-nilly with this trip. They're going to have to be deliberate. So what else about the Blackhawks is that they're going to have to get the point production up, and Coach Q is switching up these lines a lot, and you sort of have to because of injuries, but you also need to put guys in a position that they can start scoring points. They're going to have to start chasing the rebounds from the goalie. They're going to have to start pushing hard to the net, making good passes, playing smart defense. The defensemen have been taking a lot of liberties and been lax with passing the puck in front of their own goal and their own end, and pinching in, cough, Seabrook, cough. And especially now that they're going to be working in another young guy in Adam Clendening, is you're going to have to go through those same hiccups that you went through with TVR, bringing up Adam Clendening, or you're going to have to be stuck with Roosevelt and Rundblad. You don't know what you're going to be doing there. But that's where the Blackhawks are at, and this is going to be a long trip, and they're going to have to do well on this trip to really set the tone for their season. So that's really going to wrap it up for what I had to talk about the Blackhawks. But I do want to mention I did interviews with two of the Rockford Ice Hogs top players, and Mark McNeill, who's a center of the future. If you don't know him, he's just been on his line, and him have been on fire this season for Rockford Ice Hogs, and it's been part of the reason that they're in first place right now. He's been really dynamic and worked really hard from last year to this year, and trying to make that NHL roster. And with with some of the salary cap issues that are looming, he's really putting himself in a good position to be able to play for the team. And then you've got Teuvo Teravainen, who, if you remember from last year, Teuvo Mania, bringing him over from Finland and being able to hear the things that he can do, and a lot of people comparing him to a Patrick Kane as far as his vision in the ice and his stick handling and his talents and what he can do. So these two guys are two of the top guys in Rockford, and I had a chance to interview them. So without further ado, I kind of want to play these two interviews and make sure you check out these two guys at with the Rockford Ice Hogs at icehogs.com. Tonight was a rough one, especially after the 8-game winning streak. What happened out there tonight?
Well, I thought we were sluggish. But our team didn't show a lot of intensity. Our compete was down. And you got to give them credit. They came in here, they worked hard. And, the good thing about this league and playing this many games is that, we play them in their rink tomorrow. So, when the clock strikes midnight tonight, we just got to, put this one behind us and, move forward and get ready for tomorrow.
And it's been a big week for you. Last game had a hat trick, and then you were Player of the Week. How do you respond to some of those really good things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge honor, it's exciting. Couldn't have done it without my line mates, Ross and Dano. We've been playing really good together, sort of instant chemistry since they put us together. But, like I said, it's an honor, but, I gotta move past that now too and, just focusing on helping my team out.
So what do you attribute this line doing so well to, because you've been on fire this whole line? How do you attribute the chemistry there?
I'd say a number of things. The three of us, we live together, so we're all really close buddies. I think when we're on the ice, we're looking for each other. We communicate very well, and we're just battling for each other down low and in the corners, and it's working out so far for us.
Last year you played 76 games and you had 37 points, 18 goals for the whole season. Now you're at 9 goals and 15 points, or 16 points now, in 14 games. So what do you attribute that vast improvement in offensive abilities?
I would just look back into my summer. I felt like I trained really hard preparing for the season. It was a big year for me, coming in as my second year. But with that being said, I got to go back to talking about my line mates, Ross and Dano, and just how well our team's been playing so far this year for the most part. It's with great team success comes individual success.
And what are some of the pros and cons of being in the minor leagues for the Blackhawks, a team that has a lot of top talent and is competing every year for a Stanley Cup? What are some of the pros and cons?
Yeah, I mean, what a tremendous organization to be in, with all the skill development coaches that we have here every week working with us during practice, and, how competitive our team, is against one another in practice, because, we want to push each other to get better because, everybody wants to get to that next level.
And, looking at the salary cap situation for the Blackhawks, it sort of creates some room for the younger guys next year. What do you see you have to improve in order to get up in the next level and be able to win over a coach that doesn't necessarily like to play younger players a lot?
Got to just put my nose to the grindstone and, get working. That's a ways away next year, and right now I'm really just trying to focus on helping out my team and I'm trying to get better every day here right now, and we'll take it from there.
And what things do you work on here that you think you need to improve on?
Well, with my game personally, I think I have some of the pieces of the puzzle. It's just a matter of putting all that together and doing it on a consistent basis.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. How has the transition been playing on the smaller ice in the U.S. as opposed to in Europe?
It's been good. Of course, it's a little different than in Europe. It's not too much space on the ice, and guys are just a lot like shooting and chipping the puck, and it's more like going north and more simple. And but it's been good.
And this week you had the illness, and Stan Bowman said that it kind of cost you going up. How you feeling now? Better?
I feel good. I'm healthy again, and that's good. I'm feeling good.
And Stan Bowman actually said this was about you. We're really happy where he's played thus far. We also think he's shown some development growth, even in the first month of the season. How does that make you feel to know that the general manager of the big league squad is keeping close dibs and really likes your progress?
That's great. I like what he says, but I know myself. I haven't played so good how I can play. I can play a lot better, and it's a process. And I think just need to like. I know I can play better, and it takes me a little time. And I don't know.
What are some of the things that you're not happy with in your game?
I don't know. Maybe I just don't have the confidence right now, but maybe I just need a couple good shifts, couple good games, and I'm rocking again.
And I was actually talking with a scout who said that you're easily a top 6 guy in the NHL. What things do you have to improve on to show that return on investment?
I think my game is good when my confidence is there. Right now I just need to get my confidence back and play good. I know I can play good offense, and I need to improve my defense game too. But I think I'd get better in that, and I need to get stronger too.
And do you feel more confident playing center or wing?
I like to play both, but I played a lot center right now, and that's good. I feel good in center.
And so the scouting reports on you have always been has a great vision, good stick handler, offense, top notch. It's where said you need to improve was on your defense and on getting stronger because the bigger guys in the NHL. How have you been working on those?
I had a good summer. I worked here in Chicago, and I came early this summer to here and get ready to season, and I think I improved a lot. I got a lot stronger, and it's a lot of work. It takes a little time.
Oh, absolutely. And so with there's going to be a lot of positions rolling over with the Blackhawks with salary cap and guys being free agents. Do you think that creates a good opportunity for you?
I don't think those things too much. I just try to get my game better here and have some fun here, and whenever my time comes, I'm ready. I need to be ready all the time. And
coming over, the Blackhawks fans by the media were sold as you were Patrick Kane, a younger Patrick Kane. Do you think those comparisons were helpful or hurtful to you?
I don't know. It's pretty fun. Of course, come here, and I always played with expectations in Finland too. So I know how it's playing with expectation, and I always have a lot of expectation myself too. I want to play good all the time, and but I don't think those things too much too, and I just try to play my game, play with my own strengths, and yeah.
Yeah, I love the term Teuvo mania. All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So moving on to our beloved baseball teams, we have the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox. They are in what they call the hot stove, which is the off season for baseball, the winter season. And let's talk about the White Sox first, because they've actually made a move. They tried to bolster the pathetic, awful, terrible bullpen that they had last year. If you watch White Sox games, it was pathetic what they've tried to put out on the field as far as the bullpen. And they signed a guy who had sort of floundered as a starter. He had a lot of potential, but then ended up floundering as a starter, but found his stride as a reliever in Zach Duke. If that name sounds familiar and you're a Cubs fan, he used to pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he was their #1 prospect, and he looked really good against the Cubs, but he wasn't able to maintain that development and develop into a really great starter. But he does have good stuff, and the White Sox signed into a 3-year, $15 million deal. It sounds like a lot of money, but in reality, all you expect to make this a good contract is if you can get 3 wins above replacement over that 3-year span. So, like a 2 to 3 wins. So if you're averaging 0.7 wins against replacement per year, you're actually doing pretty well as far as this deal. And for those that aren't familiar with wins against replacement, the WAR, it's a metric that says if you were to take like an average guy, like any guy, how many more wins is putting you in there worth? And it could be a positive or a negative number. So if you're a guy that's bad, then the average replacement you're not going to be as good as. But somebody like Mike Trout, he's going to have a huge WAR because he's much better than the replacement that you could put in. He's worth many more wins for your team by having him in there. So in real life, you don't need him to perform absolutely amazing to be worth the amount of money that you're putting in the 3-year, $15 million deal. Now, looking at his stats, he's a guy that for prior to last year had a strikeout rate of around 11%. But last year, he somehow refound himself, redeveloped himself, became a new Zach Duke. And he's basically last year almost tripled that strikeout rate. So he went from 11% in his whole career to last year being at around 32%. And you would expect him to walk more batters, with the higher strikeout rate, but he really kept within a half percentage point or so the same walk rate. I think this is a good move for the White Sox because it's a fairly low risk and potentially high reward. And it's not done. They're not done with moves. This is just kind of the beginning. So they've already done a solid move, and now what you're looking at is trade pieces to be able to bring guys in. And the biggest trade piece that they have is probably Alexei Ramirez, because the baseball world is pretty short on shortstops, especially in the American League. Shortstops that can hit the ball are at a premium because offense is now at a premium. And having a shortstop is at a premium. So a guy like Alexei Ramirez, basically Chicago is chock full of trade bait as far as shortstops. On the north side, you've got Addison Russell if you really want to. You've got Javi Baez, and you've got Starlin Castro, who's already a team control for a team-friendly deal, a 2-time All-Star. And with the White Sox, you have Alexei Ramirez, who you can move for young arms and position players. You can move him for a lot of things. You can really take advantage of what you have. So the White Sox have a lot of room to still go. They're looking to spend some money, but I think they're trying to be a little frugal with it. They don't want to just spend to spend. And they've also got some trade bait and some decent talent in the minors. But they're trying to grow a little more slowly than the Cubs. Transitioning over, the Cubs are kind of in a position where they have to do something big. The Cubs fan base is much different than the White Sox. The Cubs are an MLB face franchise. They're one of those franchises that everybody recognizes. You either love them or you hate them. The Cubs are a big organization for baseball, and having them be in last place the last 5 years and just be humiliated by the Cardinals year after year, it just can't happen, especially when they've put so much money and effort into this team. They're finally, with new revenue streams and some other things, the new TV deal money, new radio deal money, new revenue streams. The Cubs have some money to spend. And I talked about this previously, if you remember. In one of the other episodes, I was talking about what my plan for the Chicago Cubs would be if I was the general manager. And one of the things I wanted was I needed a veteran bat, I needed a veteran leadership, and I needed an upgraded catcher. And somebody that fit the bill in all three of those was Russell Martin. And I really felt that Russell Martin would be an amazing fit for the Cubs, and it seems that the Cubs thought Russell Martin would be an amazing fit for the Cubs because they went after him hard. Unfortunately, he ended up signing with the Toronto Blue Jays for 5 years, $82 million, which is a huge amount of money. But I think more so it was the years that ended up costing the Cubs. He's already in his 30s, and he's a catcher. They have a limited shelf life. But the benefit of playing in the American League is after you hit the wall and can't play catcher anymore, they could be shifted over to designated hitter, and you've got new life there for whatever the remainder of the contract is. But if you're the Cubs, you don't have that luxury. Once you hit the wall and can't catch anymore, where are you going to put him? Are you going to try to you're not going to put him at first because you already have Anthony Rizzo. You're going to put him in a corner outfield spot? I don't know. So it's not so much about the money. It was the risk of doing a 5th year. And I feel like ideally you would have given him a 3-year deal, but he's too good of a player to accept that. And I feel like they wanted to do no more than 4. But from what I'm reading is they at last minute tried to throw in the 5th year to beat out the Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays ended up being a little bit better of a fit as far as that being able to go to DH if need be. So where do the Cubs go from here? They still need help. They still need a veteran leadership. They need a veteran bat. And what I'm hearing is Johnny Gomes. He was on the team with the Tampa Bay Rays when they went from last place to first place. So he's familiar with being on a winning team and turning things around. And Joe Madden, he's been in the World Series with the Red Sox. He's made the playoffs with several teams. I mean, he's been around the block. He's got a lot of veteran experience, a lot of playoff experience, a lot of winning experience. But the thing is he's not an everyday guy.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.